Welcome back to Herbie's Garage. Today I'm working on my KPR 200. I'm going to be demonstrating the installation of the front wheel. If you buy a brand new KPR 200 from Venom Motorsports, it will come in a crate and the front wheel will not be on it. You'll have to raise the bike up, get it off the crate, and put the front wheel on yourself. So I'm going to show you some assembly things that you need to know, and hopefully everything will go well for you. Let's get started. Okay, when you get your bike, you should get a wheel, you should get an axle, and a nut, and a spacer. Now I want to also show you that right here is the drive side for the speedometer. Now right here is a notch and right here is a notch, and there's a couple of pegs on the drive unit that sits in there, and it has to line up in there, otherwise it won't go in far enough for you to get your wheel in. So you got to make sure those are lined up. I'll show you that in a minute. This right here is a bearing, and it has a bearing just like it on the other side. These are sealed bearings. You don't have to do any maintenance on it. You don't have to grease them or anything like that. Okay, one thing you need to know is which way do you put this axle in. You put it in this way, or do you put it in this way? Well, let me show you why there's a reason why you only put it in one direction. If you put it in from this side, like so, and your wheel is spinning this direction, and for some reason something was to bind up in here and to turn this axle, see this nut out here? Watch the nut. The nut is tightening the same direction the wheel's going. But if I turn it around and put it on this side, and the wheel's going this direction, see how I'm turning it? Now it's going counterclockwise. And it probably won't happen, but if this nut binds up and you're driving down the road at a high speed and something happens inside where it grabs the axle, it could actually loosen this axle up and have it come out. You do not want that. So you want to put it in from the right side in this way and put the nut on the left side of the bike. Okay? Now let's talk about the axle for a minute. Before you put this axle in, you need to put a little bit of grease on it. Why do you need to put grease on it? Well, the main thing is you don't want this axle rusting. There is going to be a time whenever you're going to have to change the front tire, and you're going to want that tire have this pulled out easily so that you could get that wheel off to change that tire. Or if you want to do some service on your forks, you have to take your wheel off to do that as well. So you want this to be able to come off and on easily. So keep it lubricated with some grease and you won't have any problem with that. Okay, so let's get ready to put the wheel on. Now you want to put your rotor, which is this right here. This is your brake rotor. You want to put this on the right side of the bike, like so. And then you want to roll your wheel underneath of it. Okay, after you get the wheel put in position, you need to put your spacer in. See this spacer? See how it's got a wider end on it? That has to go out. So you set your spacer inside of the rubber and push it in. And it sets in like that. This side's going to be hard for me to show you because I'm going to be all in your way probably. But see this drive right here? It has a peg there and a peg there. See how mine's all greased up? You want to grease this up, put a little grease inside of here as well. And make sure you got plenty of grease in it. Make sure your cable is on the inside of the fork. Line up those pegs of the drive housing with those grooves inside of the wheel. May have to fiddle with it a little bit, but once it goes in, you'll feel it drop in. Next is you want to take a little bit of grease. I use a marine grease. I like it. It stays in really well. You don't have to use a whole bunch of grease, but you want enough to where it'll coat it good. Okay, that should do it. Okay, now you want to put your axle in. And you want to put it in to where it comes out to the edge of the fork right here. Don't let it stick out, but let it go right to the edge. Now this is a little tricky part. You have to lift this up and you have to line everything up. And it has to squeeze in between the forks, so you may drop your spacer a time or two, but hang in there. It's not that hard. You'll get it. And you'll see right here, let's see if I can get a light. Right here, let me get the light where you can see it. Right here is a space in between these two posts. And then there's a peg right here on the fork. And you have to line that up and put that in there, because that's what holds the drive. So that the wheel will spin, but this will remain steady because this is holding against that. You have to make sure that's lined up and inside of that. Okay, now you just have to lift it up. Try not to lose your drive. And kind of push in on your bushing. Line it up. Once you get it lined up, then you can just start pushing it in. There we go. And see how that peg is inside of those two spots right there. See that? It has to be lined up. Okay, your next step is going to be to put some medium strength blue thread locker. You want to put a little bit on the threads. You don't want this wheel coming off. So put some on your threads. Put your nut on. Okay. Then with an 18 millimeter for the nut side, you just run it down just a little bit. Don't put any pressure on it yet because you want to torque it down with a torque wrench. According to the book, it's about 37 foot-pounds. So you want to be sure and torque this to 37 foot-pounds. On the other side, the 15, you want to back it up with that. Let me back this up where you can see a little bit better. Okay. 37 foot-pounds. There we go. Now you've got the wheel all assembled correctly, and it should roll freely, which it does. Now, if yours is like mine, you want to wipe off the excess grease. Okay, after you get your wheel on, then you have to put your brake caliper on your rotor. And you have to look in here between the shoes and make sure you have enough space. If you don't have enough space to fit on the rotor, you just kind of gently push on the shoes to push that piston in to give you enough room. And then you take your caliper and you line it up on your rotor. Try to hold those shoes to where they'll stay open, and then slide it on. Now you want to use a little blue thread locker on your bolts to make sure that they don't come out. Okay, then you just snug them up. It's a 10 millimeter. There we go. Does it for that. Wheel should spin freely. It'll have a little resistance because of the brake pads rubbing on it. Pump up your brakes, make sure that piston's out. Make sure your brakes work. Okay, you're good to go. Okay, we're all done. Front wheel's on and everything's put together correctly. It's not a hard thing to do. You just got to make sure it's done right, because you don't want any problems with that front wheel. You don't want it coming off or anything. So, all right. Well, I appreciate all you guys watching. I know I don't say this very often, but I'd appreciate it if you subscribe. I'm trying to grow my channel a little bit. So, anyway, I'm just gonna continue posting videos, and I'm gonna continue doing things. It's getting close to the end of the season for me. December's right around the corner and it's getting cold. Today's not too bad, but it's getting there. So, but I'm gonna keep plugging away. So thanks for watching. I appreciate it.